There we go. Apologies to the viewers at home. I just set the scene a little bit, I guess. So we're here at the Hammond Election Forum for 2026. I'm Murray Bridge News Managing Editor Peri Strathearn, and welcome all to tonight's forum. I'll start this evening by acknowledging that we're on the land of the Wurundjeri people. Murray Bridge News pays its respects to elders past, present and emerging. I will also say thank you to the Local and Independent News Association, which provided a grant which has helped us put on this event tonight and make it free to attend. And I do want to, it's not really part of the procedure, but I do want to do a brief shout out to our firefighters, because as we know, we've got a big blaze on the outside of Murray Bridge today with a lot of smoke over the town, and they did a bloody great job at clearing that up and keeping us all safe. So thank you, fire. Now, as I mentioned a moment ago, there are 12 candidates running in Hammond at this election. The 8 who we've been able to contact are at this forum this evening, and I'll introduce them to you. On the left of stage, in the red, we have the Labor candidate and Mid-Murray Mayor, Simone Bailey. In the middle, the independent candidate and Murray Bridge Councillor, Airlie Keane. Yes. On our right, the Liberal MP, I'm sure you know, Adrian Pederick. And then on the high chairs, left to right, we have representing One Nation, Robert Roylance. Representing United Voice, Carmelo and Graziano. And I want to note that Carmelo's here despite having had dental surgery today. So if he seems like his voice is a little bit unusual at this moment, he's just, bear with him. In the middle of the stage, representing the Greens, Nicole Palachicky. From the Animal Justice Party, Ruby Eckermann. And on our right, the independent Lucas Hope. So, the format for this evening is going to be pretty wide open. We're going to be taking questions from the audience throughout most of the evening. We want to talk about the issues that you want to talk about, the issues that are going to help you decide how to vote. We will kick off in a moment by asking each candidate to briefly introduce themselves and just give us a little bit about why they're running up at this election. But yes, then throughout the rest of the evening, we'll be timing answers to questions. Candidates will have 90 seconds to answer the questions so that we can try and get through as many issues as possible during the course of the evening. I'll have a clock on my laptop here, so you'll be able to see the countdown as it's happening. I'm not going to be too crazy about it, but I just want to make sure that everyone has an opportunity to have their say. If you're asking a question this evening, I encourage you to, Jane will be running around with a microphone in the audience. If she brings you the mic to ask a question, I just encourage you to perhaps say your name as you're asking that question. Not only will that help us identify you, it will also make it much easier for me to write a story about this evening later on. I also note that yes, tonight is being live streamed. We're on the Murray Bridge News Facebook page this evening. A video of this evening will also be put on our YouTube channel in the next day or so. With that, I'm going to hand over to our candidates, and I'll ask you to pass the mic around and tell us a bit about yourselves and why you're running to be the next member for Hammond.
Okay, thank you very much, Peri. And is that too loud? Not working? How are we going? Wow. Now you've got me. Good evening, everyone. And yeah, we do have a big contest this time. And look, just for my background, I come off the land. I was raised at Eckermann. I still live in the farmhouse I was brought up in as a baby. I did 10 years of education at Eckermann. Did 1 year at Airlie in Adelaide, came home for 3 years. Then I ended up in the gas fields at Moomba. I was earth moving for 12 months, building rig sites, airstrips, roads, etc. And then I joined the wireline crew and also fracturing gas wells. And since then I've come home on the farm, and half of the time for 14 years I was a shearer, and then progressed to where I became the Liberal candidate for Hammond in 2004, and then was privileged to be elected in 2006. And why I'm running again, I want to build on the work that I've done along with my excellent staff over 20 years in looking after the interests of Hammond and the interests of the state that affect Hammond. Certainly in my first term, had to deal with a 4-year and going just into the second term, 4-year river drought, and we've had to deal with dryland drought over the time and many issues, groundwater, water that falls from the sky obviously, but water would have to be the biggest issue, I think, including making sure that the River Murray flows effectively. And then obviously 3 years ago we had the River Murray floods, was heavily involved in that, especially as Emergency Services Shadow Minister, and making sure that we got barriers put in place to save towns, save communities, save pumps and build levee banks. But look, I've always been passionate about helping anyone throughout the electorate, whether they're an individual, part of a group, or making sure that we can work alongside industry, work along the 3 mines that have been in Hammond alongside agriculture and work alongside community. And that's my passion, to keep doing all that, along with working to make sure we've got all the education needs, the health needs and all the infrastructure and the needs to grow this community into the future so that we can have a thriving community into that future.
Okay, my name's Airlie. Many of you here know me. I've grown up in this district. I grew up at Tailem Bend, so I've lived my life on the river, and I currently live at Callington with my partner Mike, where we have a small land holding there, but things that we've faced recently include the drought, water scarcity, environmental impacts, and yeah, many of you also know that I've been on council for nearly 12 years and have worked and assisted many people here with local issues over that time, with many successes. In my working career, I have worked in the Carmelo electorate office for over 30 years, and I have worked for 3 different members of Parliament. I've worked across politics. I've worked for Liberal, Labor and Independent, so I have a breadth of experience across the political divide. And I've really observed the difference in the communities. The Hills communities have really benefited from independent politics. They've had a new hospital, $400 million hospital was being built at Mount Barker on the back of strong independent campaigns. Now we need a new hospital, but where's the planning for the new hospital? Where's the pressure to bear for our health needs and our community's needs? So the other thing that independent politics has brought to the Hills are freeway interchanges and many other things. So I see what is happening over the hill in the neighbouring district, and I believe our community wholeheartedly deserves that same level of representation and those same level of commitments that come from government. And we have absolutely proven, without a shadow of a doubt, that being a marginal seat matters. We've proven by the success of our campaign last election that being marginal matters, and the people here tonight, the 12 candidates on the ticket, the over $100 million commitments that Labor has made, proven without doubt that we made them sit up and take notice of us, and now they are, and we now reap the benefits of that. Thank you.
Hi everyone, Simone Bailey.
Sorry, Simone, just quickly I'll note that yes, I have the dinghy theme over here. So if you hear the dinghy theme, sounds like this. That means I encourage you to round up your phone. Thank you.
Oh, that's not fair.
Simone.
Hi, I'm Simone Bailey. I grew up in the city and spent the last 20 years living in Hammond, and I saw that the gap between city and country was just widening. Your healthcare, education and other opportunities shouldn't depend on your postcode. So I'm running because I want to help close that gap and make sure regional communities get a fair go. 3.5 years ago, the people of Mid-Murray decided that it was time for change. We had the same mayor for 20 years and council was in serious financial trouble. Debt was climbing, spending was out of control, and ratepayers were facing predicted rate rises of nearly 60% over the next decade. My campaign was simple: reduce debt, stop wasteful spending, bring the budget back into surplus, and protect ratepayers from excessive rate increases long term. Even a major flood didn't stop us from delivering. Under my leadership, Council has halved its predicted debt, delivered an operating surplus after 9 out of 10 years of deficits, and cut projected rate rises by 20% over the next 10 years, bringing them back to CPI only, and we haven't finished yet. I'm about getting things done. I'm focused on delivering for Hammond. Over the last 3 years, the Malinowskis Labor government have listened and delivered for my region time and time again. The Premier only recently joked that I'm like a dog with a bone. I never give up when I want something for my community. And here is the outcome of me being in his office with the Treasurer fighting for Hammond. Things that have been promised for many, many years are finally in the books. If Labor gets re-elected, this is just the start. $100 million investment into our region. Lots of things for our little towns. I take it as a compliment that the Premier already says that I'm like a dog with a bone, because that is exactly the kind of representative that I think Hammond needs, somebody that just won't take no for an answer. I was successful in advocating for $2 million for our farmers for fuel subsidies for the hay runners. I was successful in getting $500,000 in tourism funding, and that was before I joined the Labor Party. So I'm really excited about what is to come. The truth is I never stepped up to be mayor. I just stood up because the community needed change. About a year ago, people were suggesting that I should run for Parliament, and I actually said no. But after completing the Pathway to Politics program at Adelaide University last year, I actually learned about how decisions were made, and it became clear to me that Hammond needed a stronger voice in Parliament. For 58 years, this electorate has been represented by Liberal or independent members, yet our region still struggles for the investment and services we deserve. No one is at the table when Labor is in government, and that's why I'm standing.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for coming here this evening. I'm Robert Roylance, the One Nation candidate for Hammond. I'm a local from Manon, where I work as a ferry operator, and I run a small family business. Many people across Hammond feel that something isn't right in our region, and for years we've paid more and received less, while the major parties trade places, but little seems to change. Families are under pressure with rising costs, rents, and the difficulty of owning a home, and nowhere is that pressure felt more than the struggle to find a place to live. The housing crisis is one of the biggest challenges facing our community. Too many locals are being priced out of the market with not enough homes to rent or buy. And we need practical, common sense solutions that put local families first. One Nation supports measures to increase supply, reduce unnecessary building costs, and make it easier for people to get into their first home. The rising cost of living is affecting every household. Groceries, fuel, power bills, everything is going up while wages and services fall behind. Businesses can't plan, invest or employ when our energy future is uncertain. We need a balanced and reliable approach that keeps prices stable. And just like energy, our infrastructure is another area where stability and common sense matter. Hammond relies heavily on our roads and highways. They're essential for work, freight, school runs, medical appointments and everyday life. Yet too many of them are worn, unsafe and long overdue for maintenance. Before we rush into new projects, we need to fix the roads that we already depend upon. Something needs to be done, something needs to change. I can't promise you that I'll know everything all at once, but I'll promise that I'll find out. I'm always open, honest and approachable. If you want steady, common sense representation that puts Hammond first, I ask for your support. Thank you.
I think you stole my notes. That's okay though. Okay, good evening everyone. Thank you for coming tonight. My name is Carmelo, Graziano. Most people know me as Lenny. And I'm standing as a candidate for Hammond with the United Voice Party. Just pick up painkillers. I'm a first generation Australian from migrant parents. My grandmother arrived in Australia from southern Italy with 3 suitcases, and she came here as a widow with 3 children and nothing but determination to build a better life. She worked the farms in Virginia picking potatoes and carrots, washed clothes by hand, and through hard work eventually built a life for her family. That story shaped the way I see this country. Because in Australia, if you work hard, you're meant to be able to build a future and secure a family home. But today, many families feel that promise slipping away. Parents shouldn't be lying awake at night wondering how they are going to pay the next electricity bill or how they're going to feed their children. I am tired of hearing excuses. Australia is one of the richest countries in the world. There is no excuse for families struggling, no excuse for homelessness, and no excuse for young Australians believing they will never afford a home. That comes down to poor government and poor decision by people in charge. And here in regional areas like Hammond, we also need to remember that our farmers are the backbone of this country. If farmers are struggling with rising costs, fuel, water and regulation, then our food security and our regional communities suffer too. Over the years, I've also been advocating for people who often don't have a voice, supporting vulnerable families, people with disabilities and children who need protection. And when you stand up for people, you quickly run into government red tape and bureaucracy. I've spent years pushing against those systems because too often the people who need help the most are the ones being ignored. I am nowhere by far a career politician. I am someone who believes in government should return to something simple. Serve the people, protect families, support our farmers and secure a future our children can believe in. We also need to start thinking bigger about Australia's future, bringing industry back, refining our own minerals here, creating local jobs and building a stronger, more independent country. That's the future I believe in.
Thanks, Tony.
And thanks, and that's why I'm standing. Thank you.
So my name's Nicole Palachicky and I'm running for the Greens. The reason I'm running is because I consider our democracy to be under threat. The gap between the haves and the have-nots is increasingly putting us under pressure, and we need major tax reform. My family came here in January 1837, and after the first wave of colonisers, their children began to realise that things needed to change to be successful. So my family provided the foundations of our financial systems, our taxation, which the rest of the country followed, and our foundational governance. I would like to take that back. I want massive tax change. I want to go back to taxing wealth, which is what Ben Roosevelt did when he introduced Australia's first income tax legislation. He was able to convince his fellow assembly members that that's what was needed to save the state. The reason he was able to do that was because those assembly members were members of the Adelaide community. They weren't multinational gas corporations stealing this, fleecing every bit that we have, our money being taken out of our community. Ben Roosevelt wrote our foundational laws just over in Rocky Gully. His property is still there. It's a beautiful property. He's responsible not only for our foundational governance and financial systems. He's responsible for the Happy Valley Reservoir, the Botanic Gardens, the Zoological Society. So this is proof that you can achieve success, phenomenal success, as well as being a good, decent person, human. Now the Greens talk about inequality and whatnot, but this is responsibility. We're country people. That's my hat over there with my little brother. The government killed him 6 months ago because they don't value our mental health or anything actually. And I'm wondering if the helicopter pads are functional yet after 12 months. Probably not. Who's got another hat?
Thank you. So who am I? My name is Ruby Eckermann. I came to Murray Bridge when I was 13 years old. I completed high school here and I commuted to university from Murray Bridge. I'm now graduated as a podiatrist and I work here in the town. Thinking about my community involvement, I am the chair of the Roylance Animal Welfare Watch group. So you might have seen me around as part of that group running the annual Paws Walk in Murray Bridge at Sturt Reserve, or in the Christmas pageant here in Murray Bridge, or getting a petition together to lodge to council about responsible cat management. I guess I'll just tell you a bit about the AJP. It's Animal Justice Party. It might be something you haven't heard of before. The party was formed in 2009, and they first got someone elected in 2015, someone in the New South Wales State Upper House. They formed the party because they thought the political system wasn't really paying enough attention to animal issues. Right now there are 3 people elected around the state in upper houses of Western Australia, Victoria and New South Wales, and it's surprising that they can get a lot done even when it's just one person in these parliaments. It's the only party that focuses on stopping animal cruelty, and I guess that's why you might vote for the Animal Justice Party, why I want to run for the Animal Justice Party in Hammond, is because I believe we can treat animals better. I think the systems we have today, treating animals poorly, is baked in, and the best way to fight against that is through democratic means instead of just individual choices. I think there can be systematic change. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Lucas Hope. A little bit about me. I was born here in Ridge, and I was schooled here in Manham as well. So half schooling here in Ridge, half in Manham, and then I left left Manham and went abroad. Spent some time in all the other states: New South Wales, Queensland, Victoria. I spent about 10 years in the security investigation sector before returning back home, and yeah, I'm actually a truck driver at the moment. Before that, I was a youth worker, but that sort of brings me around to what drew me to running. So I spent roughly 3 years in the prisons in New South Wales, and roughly 3 years in youth work, both in Queensland and in South Australia. But so something that really drew me to politics is the need for change in the child protection sector, particularly in the residential child protection sector. You're saying that in the last 4 years, there have been 722 substantiated claims of abuse or neglect. 722. That's been substantiated in South Australia. There are only 5,000. There's 5,000 kids in the system, and 722 substantiated claims of abuse or neglect over the last 4 years. So, but you want to wonder why the kids are running away and there's missing person reports. Does anyone want to have a guess at how many missing person reports for kids in state care that the South Australia Police received over the last 4 years? Does anyone want to guess?
Over 36,000. Straight away.
29,000 in South Australia alone. 29,000 missing person reports for kids in state care. So, just quickly, I'll finish it off. I've been spending the last 2 years developing a policy, which I've left a couple copies around at the exit, and if anyone wants to look at it, it's free to take home, and I think James holding them.
Thanks, Lucas. I'm sure people will have a look if they're so inclined. And thank you, candidates.
Now, this microphone's not very good, so I'm going to try and avoid using it, which might mean a bit of a runaround, but that's okay. Yes, Jane she's at top speed and she's primed and ready to go. So, as I said before, for the next section of this forum, we're going to open it up to you, the audience, to ask your questions. Candidates, I'm going to change the clock, so we'll have about 90 seconds or so each to answer. Throughout this election campaign, as you may be aware, Murray Bridge News has run a series of stories asking each candidate for their input on some of the big issues, ranging from public transport was the top one, to housing and roads, and I believe we've got one coming up about healthcare from memory. That's next week's problem. But certainly we invite questions on any issues that might be important to you as you decide how to vote in the state election. It seems we've got the first question up in the right-hand corner here, so I invite you to tell us who you are and ask a question, whether it's of one candidate or of all of them.
We're off to a good start. My name's Eric, and the candidates have all expressed a desire for an interest in the healthcare. I wonder if any of the candidates could tell me just how many adverse events are reported on the DANE website regarding the COVID vaccine. Anybody want to give a guess on that? No? Well, that's a good start. 144,666. Now that's a fairly demonic number for a horrible situation. So, if you were to get in a position of influence or power, would you use your position to be able to advocate for the pulling of this vaccine from the market? It's already been advised that it's not safe for under 18s, and there's been very little government awareness put out regarding that.
Sorry, I'm going to give everybody a chance to answer.
Obviously some commentary there, Eric, thank you, but we will briefly ask candidates the question, would you pull the COVID-19 vaccines?
Well, look, we were in power when COVID was on, and we were taking the health advice, and I know that from what the federal modelling said was that supposedly 46,000 lives were saved. But in saying that, I can't see any government shutting down states or countries like they did before. We live with COVID now, and people are dying from COVID, they're dying from the flu, and I think that's how it will be managed into the future.
Anyone's welcome to answer, you don't have to.
For me, I'm focused at the moment on delivering for Hammond. I think, like I said, we've been ignored for about 50 years, so that will be my first priority. It'll be something that I can chat to with the health minister to find out. I was running a nursing home during COVID, so we had to make decisions, or we were told to make decisions based on government advice, and that was very difficult for me. So happy to look into it, but it's something that I really want to focus on Hammond and delivering for Hammond.
Thank you. While that still remains somewhat a federal issue, One Nation does support full autonomy for you, and as an individual you have a right for your own choice to make a choice with what you may or may not want to put in your own vote.
Thank you for the question. I'm unvaccinated. I would never get vaccinated. I've never had a vaccine ever from a child. My immune system is, when God created man, he created us with an immune system to handle these things. As kids, we played in the dirt, and that built our immune systems, yeah? The federal government, back when COVID started, they were saying it's not mandatory. What's his name? Scott Morrison. But then the state governments went ahead and basically blackmailed us. If you don't get jabbed, you lose your job. If you don't get jabbed, you can't travel. If you don't get jabbed, you can't see your loved ones in nursing homes. I think everyone has choice and control of their own lives, and I think it's up to you to make that choice, for you and your families.
My decisions are based on scientific evidence.
I think you've had your time, sir. Thank you.
My response personally as a health professional, I support vaccines, and I think that the benefits, the lives saved, outweigh the risks. What COVID did do was show us that a new disease can kill and make sick millions and millions of people. The AJP thinks that we need to recognise that biosecurity threats, they're really driven by animal agriculture. So the new diseases, it's a risk of raising and slaughtering animals on a mass scale for our consumption. One objective of the AJP would be to decrease the use of antibiotics in animal agriculture, because that is accepted as a upcoming risk factor that could encourage the development of new antibiotic resistant disease strains.
I'm not a supporter of the jab by any means. I think this might be a little bit controversial, but I think that as a society we've become a little bit soft, a bit afraid of death, and death is a natural thing, and I think I'm a little bit controversial there, but yeah, I'm definitely not a supporter of making people get the jab.
Thank you. Candidates. Another question from the audience. Who's quickest? You might go. Back here, Steve.
My name's Steve. I'd like to ask the candidates, have they intend to or made any preference deals with other parties, or intend to make preference deals with any candidates or other parties?
I will briefly make the point that I'm sure that some of the candidates will make, which is that, of course, all of our preferences are our own to direct as we wish, but candidates and parties' recommendations do still carry a lot of weight for a lot of voters, I know, so I'll ask any candidates who might like to comment about the preferences and how they would like to direct them. Robert.
Thanks, Peri. As Peri mentioned, the vote is in your hands. What you put on that ballot paper is up to you. One Nation, to be very clear, there is no preferencing deals whatsoever. We're not preferencing anyone. So when you receive that ballot paper, that how to vote card from us, it's going to say, vote one for One Nation, that's it. The rest is your choice. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve, for the question. I believe that preference votes should not be. I think it should be one vote for one person. You believe in that person, you give them your vote, and that's the end of it. I'm not the leader of my party, so I can't comment on where they want to put their preferences, but I would say vote for United Voice Australia first, and then whatever resonates with you and your morals, and who's on par with what your thoughts are and how you feel. I think that's where you need to vote this time. I think the other parties that have been in power for way too long, and I think it's time for change.
The Greens don't put preferences at all. Never have.
I'll just say it was given to me a task to make a how to vote card, and that was just completely based on the other parties that have the most similar policies to the Animal Justice Party.
I'd be naive not to use this free airtime to say vote one hope. Anyway.
Yeah, as far as the Liberal Party are concerned, head office do all the discussions, read preferences.
Yeah, well, interesting question, thank you, Steve. It's been pretty topical for me recently.
Yes.
I've been under quite an enormous amount of pressure, actually, from one of the parties to do a deal with them. And I have resisted that deal and haven't done it. When I set out on this campaign, I said that I wouldn't, and I haven't. And very disappointingly, not long after I said no, there's been a chain of events since that time. there's been more funding announcements. There's been a website, a smear campaign website has been created on me to discredit me and my campaign. And a link to that website has been distributed around the community. Now, I don't know how far around the community that has been spread, but I really feel that this campaign has really nosedived into the gutter, unfortunately. But we rise above it, we're tough, and I just want to assure every single person in this room and anyone watching online tonight that I absolutely have not entered into any deals with any party. I said I wouldn't, and I didn't.
What's your number 2?
My number is publicly available on all the material. It's on my website. I'm freely available. So that matter, as it happens, is currently being investigated by the Electoral Commissioner, and there will be more to come out on that once the Electoral Commissioner has had a chance to investigate and review that. I will also undertake here tonight, I'm doing my own research on just how long ago it was that I did leave the Liberal Party. Many people know, as I said in my earlier remarks, that I've worked in the Carlton electorate office for members for Carlton for over 30 years. Naturally, those members were associated with the party. I believe that it was 2017 that I was last a paid member of the Liberal Party, but I will happily undertake to clarify that publicly and on my website once I've been able to get to the bottom of that. So just to recap, absolutely no deals done by me. Thank you very much.
As per Adrian, the Labor Party does all of the preferences. I'm busy out in the doors finding out what people in Hammond want.
Thank you, candidates. Yes, it's probably a bit early in the evening to get everyone to be all lovey-dovey and talk about who their second favourite candidate is, isn't it? We might go to the gentleman at the back here.
This is a question to Airlie. You said that it's been some time since you've been a member of the Liberal Party and you've done no deals. Can you absolutely rule out right here and now that you will never join the Liberal Party if you are elected as a member for Hammond, and then you will never join a Liberal Party government?
What was the name? Sorry, question? Matt. Thanks, Matt.
Peri, just for full disclosure, and in your moderating role, you're going to identify that Matt is a Labor Party member and supporter and volunteer of the Labor campaign.
What's the answer?
Just to verify that, is that correct?
Yep.
Labor Party member, thank you.
Thank you. So the question from the Labor volunteer about my future, about my intentions. I am not a Liberal Party member and I have no intention of rejoining. I ran as an independent 4 years ago because I believed in independent politics. We have proven beyond doubt that independent politics gets results. I don't want to be associated with either of the major parties. I'm fairly disgusted with what I've endured in the last little while. So I'm challenging the major parties, and I'm going to be remaining independent. Absolutely, happy to give you that guarantee.
Hi, my name's Amanda. I'm just asking each of you, we've just we live in Manning and we've just found out that you're building a big battery up the road from us at TEPCO. I've lived in Manning for 44 years. I'm already noticing the solar panels everywhere. Our township has just been surrounded by our farmers, you know, and I'm very concerned at the medical side of this big battery being built. What could be thrown off of it? You know, we know, has any real information being looked at this? You know, you could be affecting our health, you know, and the heat and what's coming off of it. I'm not happy that it's been, and just because it's out the back of a paddock somewhere, it's still going to affect us. I'm not happy about it. And we weren't even, I didn't even know about it. Next minute I drive down the road and go, oh, I saw that truck there. Go there and it's like I wasn't welcome to have a look at it. Some big secret thing being built, a spaceship, you know. I want to know what's being built in my backyard. I know they put it out there eventually. But medically, have you looked at it? Are we all going to have, you know, cancer's rampant?
Thanks for the question, Amanda.
Who do you want it to?
Well, I was going to suggest that we might go to Adrian Pederick as the sitting member in a moment, who might know a bit about the project. I think the project to which you're referring is the Summerfield battery in Bridgeport, right? So this is a private development, to be clear, it's not government funded.
It's on our land. It's on Hammond land.
It's on, yes, it's within the
electorate.
yes.
Whether, I don't care if it's private, government, that's not an issue for me. The issue is that it's down the road from where I live, where my grandchildren are.
Just generally concerned about the impact.
Have an effect on it.
So, Adrian, have you received any kind of advice to this effect? And I'll throw it open to any other candidates if they'd like to comment.
Look, I haven't received any direct advice that this will have a negligible impact on your health, but I'm happy to chase that up. But what I will say from the Liberal Party's perspective, we're a little bit over the headlong rush into renewables. And look, it is a good thing that we have about 70% renewables in this state, but we need baseload power. We really do need baseload power. We saw the folly of Tom Kitson-Tonis wanting to spend $525 million, wasted every dollar of that in his folly to create hydrogen up at Whyalla, which would have involved hundreds of wind turbines, thousands of acres of solar panels, and he would have lost 80% of that energy to make it thermal energy. So that is why we are going to make sure that Torrens Island B power station keeps going. We will ensure that a gas-fired power station is there to run the baseload power that we need to keep this state functioning, the 200 megawatt station. And also want to acknowledge that when we're in power, we put in the Energy Connect connector through to New South Wales, which once it's fully finalised, will give 850 megawatts of transferable power between what we're producing here in South Australia, mainly renewable, but through to the East Coast, because we're all connected to Queensland, New South Wales, Victoria and Tasmania, and we can import the hydro, the gas, the coal-fired power to come back to our state. So that is our position on power generation going into the future.
We might take any kind of general comments on that.
Amanda, thank you for the question, and I don't think Mr. Pederick answered your question. From what I understand, Tesla batteries are giving off radiation. If you charge your Tesla within a 50 metre radius, you're getting cancer. So I don't think the question was answered, but I'll be very concerned. And what I'd like to know from the Liberal member is...
I think we probably would look for a fact check on that after the fact, on the idea that...
Please do your own, don't take my word for it, do your own research. I think Amanda raised a critical question about our health.
To come out after, or everyone's got cancer.
Correct, like it always does. Now...
If you'd like to give your opinion anyway, obviously we're...
Well, I'm just speaking for the people. I'm their voice, and Amanda's put her voice out. So show us the data. Where's the data saying that it's safe? Is there data saying it's safe? Well, then if there isn't data saying it's safe, we then need to be sceptical and think, is it harmful? Is it harmful? But what I'd like to know as well, all these solar panels that have gone from Manning all the way through to Murray Bridge, how's that benefiting the people? Who own these solar panels? Who do they belong to? Why are they there? Who's benefiting from these solar panels? It's not the people. Corporates. It's always the corporates and the shareholders. That's who our politicians work for, the corporates and the shareholders.
as a country liaison officer, the only thing that we're looking at concerns with cancer at the moment is the pesticides that we're using and the results that they're having on Parkinson's. As far as energy is cheaper during the day for a reason. It's because we're working off our renewable energies during the day. All right. The Greens don't deny science, and yeah, we absolutely support renewable energies.
Without any looking at that, those renewable energies may have a side effect.
Well, there are no green. We don't produce policies that are not researched and provide the evidence there as well. The Greens are not in power. We're not the ones that put the batteries there. I'm running here to offer the electorate of Hammond a whole branch of the Greens, their own branch, which is not the city Greens, the country Greens. A little bit of a different colour here, and we look after the country. We want, yeah.
No, you just said that you wouldn't support anything which had medical, that's been looked into. So you're.
I think at the moment that's come on with batteries that we're talking about right now is that, yeah. I mean, obviously, if they're dangerous, they shouldn't be used, but I don't believe that they are.
So I think we've got hold on, Amanda.
People didn't think pesticides were bad.
Thank you for Amanda. I do encourage any other candidates. With respect, Amanda, there's a lot of candidates in this election. If you'd like to run next time, I encourage you to do so. Any other candidates?
The Animal Justice Party has a catchphrase, Animal, People, Planet. I can clarify that the Animal Justice Party thinks we must act on climate change, on the climate emergency, and we do support a rapid transition to carbon-free energy.
Hammond has 18,000 square kilometres of land, and they choose to put the batteries down the road from your place. Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, there's all land. There's so much land, and I couldn't agree with you more. I don't like the site, to be perfectly honest. I don't like driving down, into Manham and seeing a field full of solar panels rather than trees. I'm not a greenie by any means. And just to finish off that, free airtime, vote one hope.
I have a feeling we're going to be hearing vote one hope every 12 minutes.
There you get it.
Just on that, I have visited that site and visited some properties along that road, and you'd have to say it is absolutely mind-boggling. It's a little bit like, it's a bit surreal actually. You drive down, our rural country roads, a rural area, and you turn a corner, and there's this enormous tangled mess of metal and wires and things. It's just breathtaking. And I did meet with some people who lived, who used to have a beautiful outlook over a rural property, a lovely setting, vast views, and now all they can see is a power plant. There was no consultation, to your point, Amanda, there was no consultation, very little positive consultation with the family since, when they've raised their voices and complained. The roads are absolutely trashed. The traffic and the dust that they are now experiencing is a sight to behold. I was there at the time. The people had told me about the increase in traffic, and I could kind of get it. But then we were there when the workforce left, and it really was incredible. There was like 100 tradie utes, white tradie utes with their lights on, heading out all at once past the cloud dust was incredible. So I really feel for the people who are bearing the brunt of this development. Now, I understand that there are landowners that are benefiting quite nicely, and we know that there is a broader perspective here about renewable energy and where our energy comes from and all of that. I understand that this is a wide argument, but the people who aren't benefiting financially and the people who are bearing the brunt on their impact on their lifestyles, their health, their mental health, their property values, they are paying a very high price.
Sorry to wind you up there. I just wonder if you could perhaps articulate, do you believe that the continued rollout of renewable energy should be slowed down or halted in the electorate as a result of all these reasons you talked about? Do you have a strong stance on that?
I'm not saying, those are investment decisions. Obviously there's government, massive government subsidies. Our taxpayers are going in to subsidise that. My point is, if I could just clarify, I've door-knocked extensively. Power prices are hurting. People need reliable, affordable power. We all know that. Industry does, business does. We need a reliable power source. So that, I just want to make that point. But I just want to make the secondary point that there are people in our community who are wearing the brunt of that, and I believe there should be better planning, to the point that Lucas made, that they should be better located so that they aren't on somebody's front door. There needs to be better planning, better consultation with communities about where they are, and also the environmental impact should be considered.
To answer your question, I haven't seen any evidence of bad effects of that, but I'm certainly happy to look into it if you have any evidence of that. Our party have agreed to 100% renewables, and I think the Treasurer came up and said, I lied, it's not by 2030 because it will actually be by next year. I'm with a wholesale power company, and yesterday during the day we made $2 by using power during the day because there's too much energy in the grid, and so they're paying you to use it. So bringing the batteries in, and like Airlie said, again, door knocking, you hear, one of the biggest pains of cost of living at the moment is electricity. So if we can stabilise that, that is great. But we do, if there is negligible effects, certainly happy to look into it. But our grid needs to be 100% so that we can have value.
I just couldn't understand why every household, part of, or like a minion, you've got the solar panels, it's there, it looks all right because it's tight, neat, and it's servicing it.
But at night time, there's no energy, so that's why it needs to be stored, so then at night time, that can fill the grid up.
We have an idea of the candidates' views, I think, on renewables, so we might move on. I know I had a question from the lady in the One Nation hat. Oh, sorry, Robert. I missed you over there. Please.
It's a two-part answer. I think to direct your concern, it's worthy of an investigation to verify whether there's harmful effects. Because it sounds like I just live down the road from that. I'm not a man local as well, so I would be very concerned about. And is my kid, while he's playing in the backyard, getting radiations in some form or matter? That's definitely worth investigation. In terms of renewables and energy, where One Nation stands, has been very clear. Chasing net zero is like putting all your eggs in one basket. We just can't happen. We're all for renewables when and where they work, but you've got to diversify to ensure that we have a stable base load and we're secure in our energy, like gas, coal and other technologies where they work. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Janina. Only two of you candidates have actually talked about education, and this is what my question is. Which one of, would any of you candidates look into the education curriculum, especially the sex education? I was talking to a 16-year-old 2 nights ago, and she told me that in her sex education class they were talking about 17 different, genders, and they were also teaching them about pedophilia, or talking about pedophilia. So would any of you candidates please tell me if you can address the Education Department about this demonic, satanic, Freemasonry teachings to our children?
I know Carmelo is mad keen, as they say, to answer this one. Robert, will give you a chance as well.
I was at a rally the other day at Parliament House, Protect the Children Protection Rally. There was one nation, three representatives. All of our party was there. No media, no Liberal, no Labour. A lady by the name of Karen Keane, if you look her up, she speaks about all this stuff. She actually stood up on those steps, told her story, being molested, pedophiled at the age of 2 to the age of 12 by her grandfather, who was a Freemason. Yeah? So, puberty blockers. What the hell is going on in these schools? Puberty blockers to 9-year-old children so they can work out what gender they want to be. Are we joking? This is just ludicrous. What is happening in these schools?
Parents, when the child goes and reveals that they're not allowed to speak.
The government has taken control of our children. Right? They need to stop it. Okay? It is rampant. Freemasonry. Oh, look, I'm going to stop.
Have some water, mate. One Nation does have an education policy, and that's stripping education back to the core of all the basics: reading, writing, arithmetic, science, geography, all the stuff we learn as kids. And if you really want to teach a kid whatever it is that you want them to know, do that at home or go to a private school and have that educated. So that's basically it. One Nation's always been against cross-sex hormone changes, the puberty blockers. This stuff should not be forced onto kids. Let kids be kids. If they're 18 and they become an adult and they want to decide for themselves, that's their choice as an adult. But let kids be kids. That's it.
Labor have about 15 new policies on education, additional technical colleges to really keep the kids busy in year 10, 11 and 12. I'm really looking forward to that. Investing in better quality education, largest education reform in a generation, and it all is based on a report. We've got free public schooling, free school camps for year 7s, keeping kids active during school time with 150 minutes of active learning, free activities before and after school, expanding sports vouchers for 16 to 18-year-olds, free school holiday come and try sessions, making school facilities more accessible to the community, funding improvements for school facilities for community use. You asked me about education policies.
To address the fact of the curriculum.
Your first question was about education policies. That's what I was answering. So we are really looking into the education reform and having a good school system.
Thank you. Well, the comments you made are quite disturbing, and the short answer to that is I think there's been too much wokeness in the education curriculum and it needs straightening up. But what I will say is proud that we are investing over $130 million in education upgrades right across the state, public schools, Catholic and independent schools, to give kids the best chance with the best facilities. And certainly when we were in government, the pleasure of being in government, we made sure that was done right across the state, and I managed to deliver $34 million in classroom upgrades from Strathearn, Langon Creek, Murray Bridge and through to Manham, right across this electorate. And so proud that we're part of a party that looks after the whole state. And the seat of Giles, which we're probably never going to win because it's Whyalla, we put $100 million into a brand new school because we put the money where it's needed.
WAIT stands for Awake to Injustice. Do you have any proof of what you're saying other than the 16-year-old told you?
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, look, I'm more concerned about the fact that the politicians are sending 56% of our gas overseas for free. Look, people have had transgender operations have been happening for 100 years. Right, get your head out of your ass. This. Leave the TV on.
I just have a quick question for Labor and for Liberal. Karen King at the protest the other day has tried to pass a bill for safe education, to make children aware when it's abuse, when they're being abused, to educate the children. Liberal and Labor both blocked those bills. They won't let that into the school curriculum to teach children what's safe, what's abuse.
With respect to have had a say, we'll get some of the candidates to have a say. And I'd also like to point out that with respect is perhaps the optimal phrase. I encourage audience members and candidates to respect each other and the wildly divergent views I know that we hold. Thank you.
In terms of the education system and the Animal Justice Party, the party wants to foster kindness and non-violence in students. Just general programs they would like to see happening more in schools is things that increase the positive interactions between students and animals, whether that be wild animals or animals in sanctuaries. We want to ensure that students have a grip on environmental science, including climate science. We want to also increase awareness of the link between animal cruelty, animal abuse and domestic violence. And we also, as you can probably guess, we also want to stop animal dissection as part of science programs.
I was at the same rally. Well, there.
Sorry, Luke, you want to apologise.
What are you talking about? There's only two genders. There's none of this, having men in women's change rooms and all that. I don't, and I'll be fighting actively against that. I'm really keen on stuff that we went to the rally for, getting body safety into the curriculum as early as possible. I've worked in the Department for Child Protection. I know it's messy. It's messy, and it's even more messy for the kids that are taken away by Child Protection and put into state care. So there's like 5,000 kids in the child protection system, and I'll keep on banging on about that until the day I die. Where's all the kids going? There's 700 kids in residential care, state-run facilities with state government workers. They encounter up to and over 100 carers in their lifetime.
Thank you, Lucas. Do you have another question from the audience? A few? Perhaps there may be in the front. We've got a few later.
My name's Maria. To all the candidates, I'd just like to give you a statement from the Herald Sun yesterday. Victorian government gets power to seize the land before green checks. Now, AusNet and VicGrid have gained the authority to forcibly buy farmland for transmission lines before environmental assessments finish, with the backing of the Victorian Greens. I want you all to know about that because it can happen here in South Australia too, because there's 429 hectares being sold at Dublin for the data centres. Now, we didn't want renewables, we weren't given a choice. Our power station was demolished and the people didn't have a say, and we are paying dearly for electricity, and the cost of living, and the businesses are going bust because of this stupid renewable energy thing. I want to know from each and every one of you, none of you have said how you're going to reduce our $50 billion debt. And it's rising with all these promises, all these commitments, all these pledges. You know, where's all this money going to come from? You all
Thank you, Maria.
We want it cheap, and we have it cheap.
It wasn't the exact question I expected after that comment, but thank you. So I think generally the question is about the state of the state's finances, debt. How are we going to pay for all this stuff?
And the land being sold off.
And the land being sold off.
No, but
yeah.
them being able to just come in and
Yes.
do whatever they want.
Yes. It's an issue I think candidates can be glad that they're aware of. Thank you. But I might ask more generally about finance stuff.
The hard question.
Yeah, thanks, Peri. Well, one policy the Liberal Party is cut the fat out of the 419 spin doctors that the Labor Party have currently just spinning up the stories so they get the good news story out. But we want to see better management of government resources. We want the community and business to drive the state. We want less government involvement, and we want the people getting the outcomes. So we're not seeing this $50 billion blowout that is coming. It is coming. We've seen over the last few years, we've seen the budget in the last 4 years blow out by $4.8 billion. Now that is a lot of money. Now if you look at Victoria, their debt's out to $164 billion, so we're probably per capita at about the same rate.
Their taxpayers are paying $1 million
Yeah.
24 million a day for that 160.
Yeah, well, exactly. Now they've got more taxpayers, but if you do it in very rough numbers, it's nearly a per capita same amount. It just cannot go on. We see too much money spent in confidence by the government on projects, whether it's sporting events, and look, they're great, but we do not know how much money is spent in the background. Now, the compulsory acquisition laws you're talking about, I haven't seen anything like that to be proposed for transmission lines here in South Australia, but as I said earlier, our proposal of beefing up the gas supply so we can hook into the transmission lines that are already there, and also Energy Connect, which comes out from the Robertstown area and goes through Barunga in New South Wales and still is to be completed, is already transferring 150 megawatts of power. There's another 700 megawatts to be transferred there. We need to finish projects like that before anything else goes on in the renewable sphere.
For all of Labor's promises and commitments, that will not blow out the debt. So our promises and commitments have been because we've had 3 years of surpluses, budget surpluses. We have had 3 years of budget surpluses for the first time in a long time. Now, I'm an accountant. Debt is not bad. So my council debt was bad because we were having a prediction of about $21 million of debt and only bringing $20 million of rates in. So you can't pay debt if you're spending more than you're bringing in. So this state has actually got the budget back into surplus and had 3 years of surpluses, so we can make commitments that make our society better.
I'd say they are budget figures.
If you can show me evidence of that, I can certainly look into it.
I think we have, well, hold on. I think we have a tremendously promising crop of 2030 candidates in the front row.
I can, yes. So the budget surplus is an operating surplus. So it's basically everyday expenses, running the schools, running the police station. So the debt is based on assets that you build. So good debt is us building a women's and children's hospital that will last 100 years. So if you put yourself in debt, but it's going to last 100 years, then the depreciation in the operating is only small every year. Whereas if you built a women's and children's hospital like it was going to be and only say last 10 years, then you have to build it again in 10 years' time, so it makes it worse. So it's about forward planning, making sure you've got a good future focus so that you can have those budget surpluses.
Well, hold on. I think we might need a separate dinner for the audience before too long. Candidates, broadly, if you have any policies about how to get state debt under control.
Just broadly, One Nation's against over-government spending. We need to curb some of that. As I mentioned in the beginning, wages are low, services are falling behind, but the taxes, we're up to our eyeballs in taxes, and it just never seems to end. Every part of our life is taxed. We're living as like a subscription lifestyle. It just Correct. The licensing, the occupational licensing, everything, the GST, the stamp duty on stamp duty, it just amounts to so much. We're out to cut, reduce the size of government, and keep spending low, and spend money where it matters. Thank you.
So Simone said before they're in a surplus in the county. That's why there's no police around the place, because and you put the people at risk to get yourself into a surplus to make a name for yourself. That's enough on that. Now I've got a neighbour that lives around the corner from me. He's spent about $15,000 and he's totally off the grid. He has enough power to last him when it's night time. He's got enough in his batteries to get him through. There's all Walker Flat will be in darkness, but there's Wayne's house, like a Christmas tree, all lit up. You know, I said, "Wait, what's going on here?" He showed me his setup. Very cheap to set up. Everyone's already probably got solar. I think he's got 9.9 kilowatt solar panels with a generator with a few. I'm not very good at this sort of stuff. Inverters and all this type of stuff. Very cheap to set up. I'm sure if we bought it in bulk, we can get a good deal off the Chinese. You know what I mean? So that's where everything goes.
Comes back again to taxing wealth. Tax 2% from the wealthiest. I mean, they go to bed, they make money overnight while they're sleeping, and we're whinging and bitching about feeding kids and providing services for disability and stuff. Look, plenty of people are at 0.1% tax on the big banks will bring in 2.5 billion over 4 years. We need to start taxing insane wealth and not letting that go overseas. It needs to be back in our community. Now, as I said before, the option with Hammond Greens will provide every one of you with one vote and involvement in developing policy, including national policy. So if you want your own political party, you have the opportunity to have the Greens establish a party with you as members and you run the show. So what I'm intending to do is decentralise power. So we start with the old shopping centre that's falling apart next to Adrian's office. We turn that into the community assembly centre. That's where we immediately start making up some small housing and bikes and things to help the people that are living on the river. And that whole Coles complex would be the community assembly. Next door, Adrian's office will be the domestic abuse triage centre.
I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to answer your question quite to stand, but I just might say this: I'm sick to bloody death of being taxed through the teeth and end up with gold-plated infrastructure. It doesn't need to be gold-plated. Like, you know, they're just splashing cash around the place, and you know, putting a gold, like, it doesn't need to be. They don't need to spend millions and millions on something that can be done for 100,000. So I don't know if that answers your question, but that's something that I'm big on. So yeah. Free airtime, vote one hope.
Yeah, okay. Look, the debt levels are high and concerning. I will just say that Hammond has waited, 20 years for $100 million worth of commitments. So I hope if I'm elected, that will be my task to make sure they deliver on those commitments. I think we've all seen examples of government waste, government largesse. The helipads is one example. How do you spend millions of dollars on helipads that can't be used for over a year? And you could look at our roads. What value are we getting for our road contracts? I believe the former government privatised the road contracts. Now they're huge, vast regions, that are under private control or private, contracts, where's the scrutiny? What value are we getting? We know that some of the roads are falling to pieces, especially after the recent flooding event.
Road recently.
I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch that, Joan.
Between Murray Bridge and where the bridge is over. There's holes.
That sounds like we might have a future question.
Yeah. She's talking about roads.
Well, I'm talking about value. I'm talking about value for taxpayers' money and where there's government waste, as well as to your good point, Joan, about the terrible state of the roads. The guardrail on the freeway that we drive past consistently has been unrepaired and dangerous for months on end. So, yes.
Forget about the mowing.
I'm sure there will be ample opportunity for conversations with our candidates after we come to a close this evening. We've got several people interested in asking questions, and I've got a few up the aisle here. Jane, who did you say you saw? Yeah. Tracy? We're going to try and get to everyone. We've still got about 40 minutes, so we will try and get to everyone if we can.
I'm a Murray Bridge resident. With the planned increase in housing in Murray Bridge in particular, I'm not sure about the other towns in the region, but we've got a huge influx of building that's going to be happening, but I would like to know the infrastructure planning. Has that been looked at through Planning SA as to further roads, further freeway exits, entrances, those types of things? Because going down Adelaide Road, Swanport Road is an absolute nightmare now to get to the schools and shopping centres and things like that. In 3-5 years' time, when we have got an extra 1,000 houses or whatever it's going to be, the party's looking at further infrastructure improvements in this area.
Thanks, Tracy. So, candidates, what infrastructure would you most like to see rolled out as our population grows?
Thanks for the question, and certainly it will need a lot of infrastructure, and my understanding is it will be master planned. It won't be another Mount Barker, and over 40 years there'll be 17,000 homes going to Gifford Hill around the racecourse, and I'll be very proud over my whole time in Parliament to make sure that we got that new racecourse in place. It nearly got held up a couple of times with a few little hiccups. But if that wasn't there, we wouldn't have that potential to be part of the Greater Adelaide regional plan. And you're absolutely right. We have to make sure that the developer can access water. You can go two ways about it. You can go through SA Water or private water, and the government must stay out of the way so that Grange developments can get on with it and get on with the job of building houses that are so vitally needed. And apart from the 17,000 houses over there, there's probably about at least 5 to 6,000 that can be built in the current confines of Murray Bridge. And yes, eventually there will need to be another exit off to Gifford Hill. And from everything I've seen moving forward, the idea is to make sure that it is master planned with those health services, the education services, so that we do get the right outcomes moving forward.
Thank you, Tracy, for the question. The infrastructure is hugely important, and it also is very broad, because it's not just about roads and road infrastructure. It can be schools, hospitals, a lot of other things. It can be playgrounds, community facilities, sport and rec. The list really goes on when you're talking about infrastructure. But I would like to just make a couple of points. At the moment, the federal and state Labor governments are sitting on $656 million of money that's been pledged for the Murray Bridge Freight Bypass. That money should be progressed. They're having a debate about the funding shortfall, who's going to make it up, the funding split, but all the while our community has got heavy trucks, more trucks, they're bigger, faster, and there's more of them going along Hindmarsh Road and Morris Road every day in the heart of Murray Bridge. and they're sitting on a large pot of money and doing nothing about it. So that is one thing. In terms of the housing growth, yes, there will be. The council has done a lot of heavy lifting in terms of background planning, traffic modelling, forecasting, and there will need to be a lot of infrastructure that has been mentioned delivered. The developer will need to share some of that. The government is setting up an infrastructure fund where they'll collect money from developers and then that will be reinvested. But I just do want to broaden the discussion a little bit. We're very focused on Murray Bridge, but of course Hammond includes Strathearn and Manham, and they're both growth areas as well. And the current Labor plans completely omitted Strathearn and Manham in terms of new specific announcements as of the plan on the 5th of, that was announced on the 5th of February. So yeah, huge area, needs funding and it needs a real commitment.
Thank you, Airlie. Might take a response from Simone there.
Thank you. In answer to that question, the plan that you're talking about is the plan for Murray Bridge, so that's what just includes Murray Bridge, but the plan for Murray Lands that will be in everyone's mailbox over the next week actually has Haythorpe Reserve at Manham, Tunkillo, Standpipe, Mycolonga, Callington, a lot of other announcements. With regards to what Labor are doing with the growth, we do have in the Murray Bridge plan a planned infrastructure scheme, and it's actually the reason why I put up my hand for this job, because like I said, for 58 years we haven't had a representative for this area in the Labor government, so we haven't had a seat at the table when these decisions are being made. So that is why I put up my hand, because I can see that we're growing and I don't want to turn out like Mount Barker. I don't want my kids to move away. I want to make sure that we have the investment that we need in our region that we deserve.
Thank you. Just keeping it very direct to the question, yes, when you have an explosion of houses popping up, you're going to have to follow up with additional infrastructure, as has been said before, parks, schools, hospitals, etc. Adequate pipelines put down in place and ensuring people who live in those areas are not have their local roads congested by heavy vehicles as well. So it is a broad picture, but definitely needs to be kept up with. Thank you.
I think everyone's pretty much said what they have to say. Obviously, planning needs to be done when you're building new towns and new estates. What I would like to do if I get elected is hire a forensic accountant to go through the books and see where all this money's going. And also, I'd like to really see who are the silent partners in these builders and developers and all this, where it's all been privatised. I'd like to know who the silent partners are. So I can tell you right now, I know I put my money on, I think it's enough.
Okay, so I have a community forum organised for Friday, 6:30, to discuss the Guildford homes. The Greens would like to see a minimum of 30% for housing, 10% for affordable housing to buy, 10% for affordable housing to rent, and 10% for social housing. We would also like to see the infrastructure put into place before any homes are built. We've seen how the Malinauskas government go ahead with their building, so we would like the community to be more involved, and we need to push to make sure that we're not left with all of the 44,000 or so new neighbours and not enough infrastructure to support them. Now, by the way, I also want to say we have 81,000 vacant homes across Adelaide, or across the state. We need to seriously think about doing something about that. Not only that, we need to stop blaming the migrants, because it's not the migrants that are owning all of these homes. It's the wealth. We need to tax wealth. We need to stop giving private property developers and land agents who have 10, 20 houses all of these massive, massive tax breaks. It's bloody disgusting.
Thank you. It seems the room is talking a lot about careful planning of urban sprawl and more road infrastructure. As part of that careful planning, the Animal Justice Party would like it to be considered that we are living alongside wildlife, and that could be just simple things of modifying or when building roads that wildlife are taken into consideration, because road strike with wildlife is just horrible and it's unnecessary. If you can avoid that by building in underpasses or overpasses for wildlife, rope bridges and fencing. So just small things. If you have considering animals in your policies or your planning or design, it can make a big difference. Thank you.
It's funny you say that about the animal proofing the roads, because I've lived in a few different states, and something that I have seen quite a bit is that little bit of infrastructure to let koalas that cross the road, or an underpass, or a piece of rope going across the road, and like a cage or something. Stuff like infrastructure like that. So I tend to agree with that. And just on the immigration thing, I do think that we need to cut immigration yesterday. I'm big on that. But with my policies, and I don't know if it's going to answer the question in an appropriate way, but I've been really specific about my policies. And my leaflet is at the exit of what my policies are, apart from the kids in care, getting access to the kids helpline. I want to see an upgrade to the Murray Bridge Hospital. Actually, probably at the point where we might need 2 hospitals. It's growing at that rate. At least start planning. I want a roundabout at the intersection of Doom. Anyone that drives the old Princess Highway knows the intersection of Doom. And slow vehicle turnout lanes at Strathearn, because I'm a truck driver and I don't like seeing 20 cars following me down the road.
Thank you. I think Airlie just wants to make a brief comment, which I expect is about that. She has, but I think she's making a point about the roundabout, so I'm going to guess.
Thanks for the prompt, Peri, but there is already engineering design for the Minato roundabout already on the table. We just need to unlock the $656 million that Labor is sitting on to build it. It's ready to go. But the point I just wanted to make just on infrastructure and health infrastructure in particular, I find it curious that the Labor government have just announced that they have they've secured land for the Greater Northern Adelaide Hospital at the new Concordia development, which is half the size of the Gifford Hill development. So why is Murray Bridge and our community missing out on that forward planning for a new hospital when a development in the Northern Adelaide Plains, half the size roughly, gets a parcel of land secured and we don't? So if I'm elected, I will be absolutely pushing the Labor government for transparent planning for a new hospital for Murray Bridge.
Thank you, Airlie. I think Adrian and Simone both respond to some of those points.
Yeah, just quick comment about health. We've committed to a $7 million upgrade to the maternity ward at Murray Bridge Hospital so people can get en suites, be birthing in comfort and postnatal rooms and things like that. But getting to the freight bypass, Labor are only $400 million short of the $1.05 billion that's needed to build that freight bypass. And from the state side, we are fully committed to our level of funding from the state perspective for that freight bypass. It will move out to Monardo. There will be a roundabout built there, there'll be a level crossing upgrade done, works done as it goes around to Mannum, Sedan, Cambrai, and then we'll have to do the Truro freight bypass, which was scrapped by Labor along with the Handel freight bypass. There was $450 million that was scrapped there. So we are fully committed to that, and we are also fully committed getting back to roads to $1 billion worth of road maintenance funding to try and get on top of the $2.1 billion freight, the road maintenance backlog, over 4 years, which is a $300 million over the top of what is budgeted at the moment. Now, I'm noticing what Simone is saying about Labor not being involved locally. Peter Malinowskis admitted himself in a media conference that they haven't had an interest in Hammond. In fact, Tom Keats-Thomas one day had to ask David Ridgway where Pinaroo was when it was in the seat of Hammond. He didn't know where it was. And so the one comment I'll make to the Labor Party is they've been in power for 20 of the last 24 years and they've suddenly realised Hammond exists.
The Premier didn't say that he didn't have an interest in Hammond. He said that he's taken Hammond for granted and now he is paying attention. With the funding that Airlie talks about for the Greater Adelaide Freight Bypass, I did have a bee in my bonnet as the local mayor who has a lot of the trucks going through my area. And I sat down with the treasurer, because that's what you do when you want something done, and he explained to me that obviously we'd agreed to 80-20 funding, and then the federal government did a review and came back 50-50. Since then, the federal government had given 80-20 to Queensland. So he said, do you want me to spend our state money and put us into more debt when the federal government are giving the money to Queensland? So we are negotiating very strongly with the federal government to make sure that South Australia gets our fair share of funding that we deserve for those roads. And for the hospital, we have put in $15 million. For the one that you're talking about, that actually encompasses the whole of the Barossa. So as I said before, in the Murray Bridge plan, there's a section in there about planned infrastructure required, and that is where we'll be talking about the hospital.
Very quickly,
Look, I just wanted to ask a question. You say debt, where are you going to get the money from? I think money hasn't been backed by gold since 1973. So if we go down to Officeworks and buy a printer and some ink, we can print as much money as we want. Because what is it backed by? Let's be serious, guys. Honestly, look, I might be talking out of school here, I don't know. But what is money actually backed by? What's this money? What is it? Anyone?
We might have to do some research to answer that question.
Well, you do your research, buddy, because I went into the bank the other day with a $100 note and I asked the bank manager for a bit of gold, and he reckons we don't have no gold. So what's this money backed by? Who are we in debt to? These are the questions I want to know. Who are we in debt to?
Thank you, Carmelo. I think, like they say on the game show, Whose Line Is It Anyway? Everything's made up and the points don't matter.
3-year time. No one hope.
Now, we have a couple of questions. We have a lady on the end, we have a lady in glasses at the aisle here. Rosie, did you have one? So we might go down here first, then to the lady in the middle. And then we've got one at the back here in blue, I believe. Yes, that's 4, and that's getting pretty close. We're going to go to about 9 p.m. here, which is in 20 minutes. So we're going to try and go lightning round here, I think, if we can.
Hi, my name's Lorraine Appledore. I actually have in my hands here a government printout from the immunisation handbook. Now, this is important, and the government made a recommendation 9 months ago for healthy infants, children and adolescents under the age of 18 not to receive the COVID-19 vaccine. I have been in pharmacies and they have not even known about it. I spoke to Peter Malinowskis about it. What are the candidates, my question is, what are the candidates going to do to get this word out? This is really important. 9 children now, Australian children, have passed away following the vaccination.
Thank you, Lorraine, for raising that point. We have talked about vaccines, and I might encourage you to have a conversation with the candidates after the event about that topic. I think our next question was from the lady in the glasses in the second row.
Hi, I'm Jennifer. I'm from Margaret East. Yeah, that'd be great. Thanks. So the ongoing genocide in Palestine and the attack on Iran haven't made the agenda for this election yet in Hammond, as most people don't see it as a local issue. People here care about things like roads, public transport and healthcare, which is fair enough. But now the fallout is starting to hit local hip pockets with the shortage on fuel supply, particularly diesel,
which will push up transport costs, the price of groceries, and so much more. People are starting to pay attention and realise how these issues affect us all. Whoever wins the seat of Hammond needs to advocate for an end to Australia supporting America and Israel's military aggression in the Middle East. It's a crisis we can't afford to ignore. Where do each of the candidates stand on Australia supporting these illegal acts of aggression?
I might seek responses. Thank you for the question. I might seek responses, particularly from Adrian and Simone. I know that our time is limited, and I'm sure that voters will be able to have a look at the platforms of the different parties. Although I might get perhaps Airlie, Simone, Adrian, and Lucas as the independents. Obviously, you don't have a party platform.
No pride in genocide.
Thank you, Nicole. I might get Adrian.
From the river to the sea.
Thank you, Adrian. And I'll get some comments from you.
Okay. There's.
I'm the daughter of the vet. Don't you start, mate. I will start.
Come on,
We might let you continue that conversation after the forum as well. Adrian?
You don't want me to start.
Carmelo?
Okay. This has been generational, what's been happening in the Middle East, and there's been a lot of pain on both sides. But what I would say about Iran is that do people want to have the threat of nuclear power in charge of a country that, with the protests recently, it is said that 30 to 50,000 innocent civilians were killed, and I'll leave it there.
There's no proof that they were going up there.
We'll hear from the candidates. We've asked a question. We've had a question for the candidates. Let's see what they're saying.
Okay, look, I might get in trouble here, and I just speak the truth, and I'm pretty awake to what's going on. Yeah, Israel is not a country. It was established after World War II. The Rothschild family established it to create a war machine that they could then use to take over the Middle East. What I will say to you is this: any country that doesn't have a reserve bank is not under American control. Okay? So these other countries like Palestine, Iraq, Iran, and these countries don't have a reserve bank. So the Americans, problem, reaction, solution. They come in as the saviours and take over these countries. Does that make sense? Right? So, do I back Palestine? Free the Palestinians. Yeah? Arrest all the Israelis, because they're the criminals, war criminals. Right? No, I stand by that. 100%. 100%. Yeah?
We might keep moving around.
I'll just leave it there. If you want to talk to me more about it, I can go right down the rabbit hole with you as far as you want to go, and I can explain it all to you. With thanks.
Look, I feel very sad about what's happening around the world. It really, it saddens me, and I do worry about the state of politics around the world. It is a federal government issue, and I do believe that the federal government has it in hand. You know, even today some news came out about the soccer players. It's something that I'm happy to look into, but I don't have enough experience. And like you said, I'm trying to deliver for Hammond because I think we've been left so far behind.
I'll just touch on it briefly, Jennifer. Look, obviously we've been seeing this unfold for a long time. It's very concerning. There's been, horrific, activities over there. A lot of loss of life. It's dreadful. The latest turn in terms of impact on fuel supplies in Australia is very concerning. Not to make light of it at all, but I just want to share, I am driving a 1974 Combi around at the moment, and so the fuel, amount of fuel I'm using at the moment and the price of it is quite topical. And I'm just going to finish my comments. I'm going to just finish my comments, thanks to Jennifer's question, that just as an aside. But, I really question about federal Labor's handling of our fuel stores, because I went to a fuel bowser just I think the day after the escalation, and there was no a particular type of fuel the following day. So how is federal Labor managing our fuel stocks in this country. I don't think they're managing them at all. It is a tragedy, it's frightening, we should all be very concerned, and I'll be watching it very closely. Obviously, I don't have direct control or authority over it, but we need to speak up. We need to speak up because our whole, our farming community, businesses, our lifestyle is impacted on our use of fuel. So it's a massive, massive issue, as well as the all-round tragedy on all sides. So yeah, very concerning and valid question.
Thank you, Airlie. Might briefly go to Mr. Webber.
Pretty good time. It's a touchy subject on both sides, and I want to be respectful to both sides, even though I'm not on a particular side. What happened on October 7 was disgusting, and it shouldn't have happened. I don't necessarily agree with what's going on, but all wars are bad. There's wars going on all over the world. Look at Africa, look at Syria. And for us to concentrate just on one part of the world when there's so much bad going on all over the place, and it is widespread. You look at Africa, you look at Ukraine. There's hardship all over the place. So there's hardship right across the world, and I don't feel that necessarily concentrating on one part and then calling for the genocide of that part of the world and those people is necessarily nice. So I think I've said enough, but thank you for your question.
Thank you, candidates. I know we have a question from the lady in blue, just back here.
From Upalonga. First of all, I just want to thank the Liberal Party for the measures that they took during the very beginning of COVID. I was actively working as a registered nurse, and I know that the measures you took, hard as they were, saved thousands of lives. Secondly, we haven't covered employment and the lack of opportunities, particularly for young people and older people here in this community. I want to know what plans each candidate has for increasing businesses here, particularly when our big development of Deputy Hill takes place. People have got to have some sort of employment to be able to pay these prices. At the moment, we have a lot of young people with increasing training in various areas, but we don't have businesses that are taking them on, and they're having to leave the area to be able to find work. We also don't have those that can afford to get driver's licences that they badly need to get to work, and the government is not funding the Learn to Drive program here for disadvantaged people. So what is each candidate going to actively plan to attract businesses here that is affordable? Not just infrastructure, but providing opportunities and perhaps some more affordable apprenticeship scheme.
Thank you, Val. I'll throw the candidates.
Thank you for your question. I'm a small business owner in Manham. If those who are in Manham know me, we run the grog shop, the little distillery, and we often put employ people on part-time. We often employ people part-time, sometimes on a cash basis, especially teenagers or young guys who are starting out. And as a business owner, it's really, really difficult to grow. You're juggling everything, but the biggest cost is the tax, the regulations, and the cost of power. It's ridiculous. Our electricity bill is in its thousands because we rely on, without electricity, there's no business. So I have to think, what are we doing for next month, the next 3 months? Where is our budget? We're a small business, but it's all to do with power and tax. That's why we need to address the energy crisis. If I had more money, I'd happily put on guys full-time to help us invest and grow. And I'm sure a lot of business owners would agree with that statement. Tackle the energy. As going back to what we said earlier, we need better base load. We can't just rely on renewables.
What about payroll tax?
Correct. That needs to go. Stamp duty, all these occupational licenses, liquor licensing, all of these things, these small bits and pieces, they just add up. I could just go on for forever about it. The cost of running a business and how how can you reduce? So again, if you had more money, you would be able to invest and employ more people.
Labor has an employment lands roadmap to ensure that South Australia has the service industrial and employment lands available, and one of the lands that we've unlocked here in Murray Bridge. We also help businesses like Golden North get to Murray Bridge by giving them, I think it was $1 million grant. In Murray Bridge, we actually have too many jobs and not enough people wanting them at the moment. So that's total opposite problem. It's something, that's why we're having to have people come in to help with those jobs. In something like Strathearn, totally opposite. You know, we need public transport to get them to places and things like that. But it's certainly, with the L2P program that you were talking about, I totally see the need of that, and I've been working with them, and I will certainly be advocating, because I see that as a really good program to get our young people trained and be able to get to their workplaces. And we have a $50 million commitment for a technical college here, so that kids can go through year 10, 11 and 12. If they don't want to go to university, they can go through this trade technical school and come out with a really well-paying job, and it's working really well in the other areas where it's been. I'm super excited about that.
Well, Val, thanks for the question. Yeah, there are actually jobs available at the moment, but to your point, we absolutely need to support young people who have been, just remember the young ones went through COVID and were, at home, their social skills and other mental health impacts still impacting a large cohort of people in our community. So I'm really pleased that, as Simone said, that on the back of our strong independent campaign, making Hammond marginal at the last election, that Labor, by their own admission, had overlooked us for all these years. They have now taken notice, and we now have $100 million worth of commitments and counting, and including the technical college, which was really valuable. But we really need a university campus as well. It shouldn't just stop at the high school technical college. It's welcome, absolutely welcome, but we all know that TAFE has been gutted over years by governments. So where's the investment in TAFE? And a university campus we're talking about growth, to Tracy's earlier point, we really need to be thinking big picture, and a university campus is really essential. I know Peter Sawley very well, who runs L2P. Council has helped fund that program and supported it over many years, and it is a really valuable program, so I'd be absolutely happy to look for ways to support the Learn to Drive program. It's really important for disadvantaged young people in our community. So.
Thanks, Anne.
Look, there's a lot of dollars being talked tonight, so I want to talk about what we did commit to Hammond when we were in power between 2018 and 2022 was over 220 millions went into the education precinct, $46 million ended up in fixing up the old bridge, 42 million in roads. So we put plenty of money into Hammond. I just want to make that point perfectly clear. And I've always managed to fight for outcomes from opposition as well. But what I want to say about the training, and I've certainly supported the LTP and Peter Sawley, and I hope that gets going properly again so we can get those opportunities for people to drive. But certainly as far as apprentices and trainees, we are taking them out of the payroll tax bracket, so an employer has more incentive to employ trainees and apprentices, and they won't be counted in the not $1.5 million, which is the limit now. We will lift that to $2.1 million, so there's more leeway to hire more people. But we also put a mentoring program in place and a whole range of other supports, and also fast-tracking the trades that we can from 4-year trades down to 3. Now we'll have to watch that so we don't take shortcuts, but we will do what we can to get those people on the coalface, building the homes, building the roads, doing the work that needs to be done to make this community a better place.
big things that I've been saying for quite a long time is I want to see the major departments, government departments, based in our regions. So, you know, I mean, why the hell is the Department for Premier Cabinet not in Murray-Bridge? Yeah, right. So it's, you know, the Premier Cabinet needs to be near the Parliament, you're sure. But, you know, what about the headquarters for, I don't know, environment and water? Why is that department headquarters not here? So it seems a little bit silly in my mind to have all your big departments in the city, because speaking militarily, strategically, it's a centre of gravity. And I know I'm getting a little bit too technical. You know, if something happens, if the power grid goes down in the city and the regions are okay, then there goes down all your major departments. So bring them to the regions and give those jobs to the regions.
Brandon tried that with Minato.
How's Don Dunstan's?
Yeah, Dunstan.
Yeah. Oh, that's another thing. I'll just finish with that. I want to revive Don Dunstan's plan to put, I don't know how many houses he wanted in Minato. I think it's a fantastic idea. We don't have any houses, so you know, why not?
Thank you, Lucas.
Oh yes, there's no specific AJP policy about jobs in Hammond. So yes, nothing extra to add other candidates haven't covered.
So not specifically for Hammond, but we do expect to provide 40,000 jobs in renewables, in switching over from the fossil fuels, so supporting new industry to replace so that people aren't going into unemployment. We also want to invest in for construction.
Going back to the other question from before, we need to refine our own minerals. Okay, all this is sent offshore. So we need to become independent. We're self-reliant. So when wars break out like they are now, we don't need to rely on anybody. Australia should be self-sufficient. We have all the resources. We're the only two countries that produces uranium, lithium. Australia. Why are we buying and sending it overseas and then bringing it back, buying it back from the Chinese? We should be developing all this stuff ourselves. We would create thousands of jobs, security for Australians, and we'd never throw on anybody. That's...
Thanks, Carmelo. And that's everyone to the stone that I think. Now we have time for one more question. We have heard from you. We've got a couple. Hello, Vince. Yes, I remember Rosa. Yes, Rosa as well had a hand up earlier. We'll see how quickly we can go.
Hi, look, I've changed my mind about 20 times since I've been sitting here on what I want to ask. Seems to me that there's some confusion on the stage about federal issues and state issues. So
maybe just closer to your mouth, Rosa.
Oh, better?
Thank you.
Sorry. I said I think there's some confusion on the stage about what's federal issues and what's state issues, and I really haven't got a great sense of direction from any of you. So my question to you individually is, what is the one tangible thing that you want to push for in this electorate? Just one tangible.
A reasonable finishing question for you, I suppose. What's the one thing that you're on about at this election, candidates?
I think it all starts at home. I think security in the family home, you know, I remember years ago there'd be one parent working while mum or dad stayed home to raise the children. I think we need to get back to that. Cost of living, obviously electricity, food, everyone should be, that's a necessity. No one should be worrying about where their food's going to come from, or how they're going to pay their electricity bill, or their kids, taking puberty blockers and confused about their gender because they're off, both parents are off working. Kids are getting into trouble, mental health is out of control, crime rates are out of control. It all starts in the family home. So let's build a strong foundation first, secure the family home, make sure the children are safe, and then from that we can address all the other issues, and there is a lot of issues, both federally and state issues. So I think it all starts at home,
Housing.
Concise, we like it.
Thank you for the question, Rosa. I would really like to talk about a headline policy of the Animal Justice Party, and that is Medicare, which is subsidised vet care for people that are on low incomes. Because people are struggling with the cost of living, and those bills might be your food, your rent, your fuel now. And vet care is another bill, and some people, even if that vet care is affordable in general, if you're on a very low income, it's still hard to afford. So the AJP has developed this Medicare policy. We want to prioritise people that are on low incomes, pensioners, and also people that do volunteer work of animal caring and animal rescue. It's awful if affordability is the barrier if you have to either choose between surrendering your beloved pet or going into a lot of debt over your pet's essential medical bills. So if this sort of policy was adopted, it would just decrease unnecessary deaths of animals, decrease unnecessary suffering, and we all know that earlier treatment is cheaper in the long run than when things fester. This could also apply to wildlife. Right now, vets look after wildlife pro bono, or volunteers have to stump up just regular people for helping our native animals. So this policy would also subsidise the care of wildlife.
I'm going to pat on about my big policy again, and I do apologise because I've been working on it for the last 2.5 years. So I've got draft legislation and a Q&A and a policy paper that's going to be on the way out, and there's a couple up the back as well. I'm going to say something really dark. Out of the last 4 victims of child sexual abuse in state care, out of the last 2, out of the last 4, 2 of them were boys, and 1 of them was from this district. So, and the other boy ended up in jail. He transitioned, and within 6 months of transitioning, ended up in jail. So, we're taking kids away from the loving parents. That's quite often really look quite loving parents, putting them in government care homes just to be abused. So my push to put fixed line phones in every state care home to give kids in state care access to the kids helpline. They don't have the kids helpline. Let's just, these kids do not have access to the kids helpline. So it's a cost-effective policy, and I've done all the legwork. I just need to be voted in. So if you're unsure who to vote for, please vote for me, because it will stop some kid from being raped or from necking themselves. I'm asking everyone in this room to vote for me for that reason, not for no other reason. Look at past my other policies for that reason alone. Thank you.
Thanks. What I would like to see is a sustainable, safe, secure, strong and affordable community. And that's why we've got policies in place to attract health professionals, police, doctors and nurses. $20,000 incentives so that we can get people to either re-sign, come from overseas or interstate, so we can boost the workforce to make sure that we get the services we need. And I know the Labor Party are promising a new police station here in Murray Bridge. The one that's there is 13 years old, and on that site, the courthouse was supposed to move up there. There was land there to do it, so I think that would be the more priority there. But the more priority above that is more police, so we can actually get enough police to fill that station, which we don't have at the moment, and they also backfill Manham, which is short-staffed. But that's the short version. You'll see all our policies on brightersa.com, and we just want to see a sustainable future for this area, as we do for the whole state.
Thank you. The main, thanks for the question, Rosa. The main reason I'm running, and as you know, I ran last time and got very close, within 300 votes. I know what's possible. I've got the experience, and I really want to represent this community to the level that you deserve. I know you've been missing out. We've proven that you're missing out. This campaign has proved that you have missed out. We've had, without a shadow of a doubt, proof that being marginal matters, independent politics matter. What a consistent theme that I've heard throughout my campaign is that people are sick and tired of major party politics and politicking for our communities. So if you want a genuine person, a genuine local who really cares about this community and who knows how to represent you to a far higher degree than you've been represented, then I'm putting myself forward to the voters of Hammond. Thank you.
Like I said at the beginning, I want to help close the gap to make sure regional communities get their fair go. I want to be the person that delivers the plan for the Murraylands and the plan for the Adelaide Hills Strathearn part. I feel like we need not only this plan, this is just the beginning. If you have someone in the Malinauskas team, a very strong voice, we can keep going for the next 4 years and really make Hammond into an area that everybody wants to be in and have us thrive. I want to represent the people of Hammond. I want to get back to making sure that everybody knows who cares about them.
You asked for a tangible things that we were out to do, and from the beginning I said we need to get on top of the housing crisis, because without a place to live, without our kids looking for somewhere, they're just stuck. We need to find a place to live. So One Nation's been very clear with their housing policy, cutting back the 43% on building costs, allowing people to use their super to buy their home, cutting back the stamp duty on insurance premiums, your homes, new and existing homes. There's a myriad of things that we can do. Of course, builders, we've got this housing crisis, but builders are going under. They need support. Houses will build themselves. But we also have to ensure we have a limited immigration for a period of time, because there's no point building 2,000 houses when the federal government is importing 1,500 people. It's not about race, it's about careful management of current resources.
What about the 81,000 homes that are vacant?
Those homes also, just on that.
They don't have migrants, they're vacant.
It's not about migrants, as I said, it's about carefully managing our current resources. If you choose to rent out a granny flat, a bedroom, a home, whatever it is, that's your business, and you shouldn't have to pay tax on that, because that's helping this crisis.
Thank you. I think that all candidates have had an opportunity to answer that last question. So I'm looking at my watch, and the watch says it's almost 9:15, so we might have to...
Oh, I get the good mic, that's pretty good. We might have to draw it to a close there. I'd like to thank you, our audience in the room at the Bridgeport Hotel, and our audience online, and those watching the replay later on, for attending our 2026 Hammond Election Forum. Thanks to Lena, whose sponsorship has helped us put on tonight. and that includes the hiring of our photographer Chris, who's been running around all night. Thank you, mate, for all the photos you've taken. Appreciate that. Thank you to the Bridgeport Hotel for having us, and staff who've kindly served us drinks, and hopefully will continue to do so in a moment. Thanks to Jane for doing the runaround with the mic as well. And so with that, you will watch a replay of this forum. We'll make it available on our YouTube channel, the Murray Bridge News YouTube channel, that is. Of course, we'll have full coverage of this forum in this week's email edition. If you're not already subscribed, I imagine you probably are in this room, but if you're watching this and you haven't subscribed already, be sure to do so at www.murraybridge.news. I'm Peri Strathearn. Thank you, candidates, very much, and may the best candidate win at the poll.
Well, thank Peri and your team for putting it on. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, folks. Have a good night.